And those tabloids that she'd always been so hungry for, they've turned against her and will have nothing positive to say. Well, during all this storminess, she's got one friend. And surprise, surprise, it isn't George Clooney this time. Her hairdresser comes out and he says she doesn't deserve all this negative press. David Martin was outraged that there was this idea that Meghan, who had once been the perfect royal, is now being called Duchess Difficult. And he said it was malicious. And he pleaded, in the years that I've worked with her, she's never had a diva fit. Never. Harry and Meghan are very philanthropic. So, put that in your pipe and smoke it. It's like, you know what, you weirdo? I don't know what Meghan's paying you to do her hair so badly. But you've got to wake up and realize that these people, their star is dimming. You should be running from, not defending these people. Well, Daniel Martin had good reason to be grateful to Meghan. The truth is that he said that wedding put him in a whole other stratosphere on social media that he couldn't even understand. Yeah, neither can we, because we saw her hair. Among many other lucrative appointments, Martin had become a brand consultant for Dior. What is happening in the world of power? That's my question out of this book. Why would, after seeing that hot mess of a wedding hairstyle on every news station in the world, why would Dior then be like, hey, let's get a brand deal with this joker? He calls himself a hairdresser and clearly did her hair with an egg beater. Let's choose him. He must have some new and upcoming ideas. Capitalizing on the wedding and baby shower had transformed other unknowns into celebrities. By associating her designs with Meghan, Misha Nonu had opened a pop-up fashion boutique in central London and an intimate workshop for group sound healing using crystal bowls. Jessica Mulrooney, newly dubbed by Harper's Bazaar as the fairy godmother of Canadian fashion, had finally secured a contract on ABC's Good Morning America. Flaunting her relationship with Meghan, Mulrooney modeled new clothes on Instagram alongside her 3 children. Abigail Spencer, an actor from Suits, was also delighted that her friendship with Meghan had increased her Instagram following from 100,000 in 2016 to 500,000. Contrary to many expectations, her NBC TV show Timeless was not axed. Another beneficiary was Taryn Toomey, the fitness trainer. Meghan and Harry had urged their followers to explore Toomey's retreats in Mexico and Mystique at £3,600 for 4 nights and to buy a peach moonshine necklace for £1,200. So everyone's just feasting off this cash cow that is Meghan and Harry. And I just feel like it's probably the grossest thing I've ever read about. Well, maybe not the grossest thing I've ever read about. We have heard about Prince Andrew. But of all the royals, this just seems like the most outlandish expression of greed and commercialism I've ever seen. And the fact that Meghan is allowing people to just ride her coattails like this and feast off of whatever crumbs she drops from the table is disgusting. But you know she loves the power of having all these people who now depend on her. The commercialism plans, especially the transactional relationships orchestrated by the Sussexes, unnerved the palace. Yeah, you don't say. Meghan's collaboration with her Los Angeles advisors and Gayle King convinced officials that the couple were heading beyond their control. Are we only now just coming to this conclusion? I surely hope not. I mean, yeah, at this late date, we could not conclude anything else. The fact that I'll just never get over the fact that she said that BBC and ITV could not come in, but that we'll invite CBS News in. I'd never get over that. And that, to me, is like the obvious. Like if she's trying to market herself to the Americans, she has no intention of staying in Britain. The struggle to find a replacement for Samantha Cohen, because you remember she'd been like, okay, I've done my due diligence for the palace. I wanted to be out of here after Geit was gone. I got dragged back in. I'm officially over here. I can't anymore with this. She finally struggled and fought her way out. And they needed to find somebody who could be a replacement for Samantha Cohen. And so they selected Fiona McIlwim. Fiona was a Foreign Office diplomat. And the height of her career was a 21-year service as the UK's ambassador to Albania. She was married to Daniel Korski, who was an aide to David Cameron. And as you can conclude, she had exactly zero in common with this Hollywood actress. So from the outset, it just seems strange that they would even appoint this person who... What in the world would Meghan find this person some kind of confidant? And they want Meghan to revealing her intentions, but then they pair her up with somebody who Meghan would immediately see as an enemy. So, of course, she had no intentions of sharing her plans with Fiona. I mean, Sarah Latham had failed, and she had been handpicked by Harry and Meghan. So you can only imagine that anybody that the palace decided should be in charge, was shot coming in the door. Heather Wong and Cara Madden, the Duchess's project managers, had also failed to win Meghan's complete trust. I mean, we know the only person that she trusts isn't Harry. It's Marcus Anderson. So I don't think there's anybody on the globe who knows Meghan, least of all Harry. But did any of these palace staff ever have a chance? 100% no, they did not. What they needed was to hire a fox the fox. They needed somebody devious in their back pocket. And I tell you what, they got it with the solicitor we're about to talk about in a second. Now, Meghan believed that she had good reason to be suspicious. All her requests were now referred to Buckingham Palace, and regularly the Queen's officials directed her staff to prioritize the palace's interests over Meghan's. More important, without consultation, a legal constraint had been imposed on Sussex Royal, their foundation. The problem here is that they should have been doing this at the beginning. All of Meghan's requests should have been funneled to Buckingham Palace first. She should never even been given her own staff. They should have been like, we need a tried and tested method here before we let her go her own way. To give her own staff was to be like, put a child in a candy store but nobody's watching what the kid's up to, right? And then being like, why is the child throwing up and sick all over the floor? Well, you left the child unattended in a candy shop, right? So they're wondering how in the world did this all spin out of control? Well, the minute you let her have control, that's when that happened. But luckily for them, they are quite clever. And they have this solicitor who was regularly employed by Buckingham Palace, who had been asked to create the foundation of the Duke and Duchess of Sussex. And the couple believed that the lawyer had been tasked to reproduce the Royal Foundation. Of course, the Royal Foundation is the one that William and Catherine are associated with. So this man is a mastermind, and he's the hero we've been waiting for these many years. Under the law, a foundation is private, and the patrons have no legal obligations, and there's no requirement to publish the detailed accounts of a foundation. But a foundation is very tricky to set up, and it also you need to have financing for it before its creation. So it requires finesse. It requires financing. You don't just throw a foundation together, unless that foundation is registered as a charity, which is exactly what this solicitor did. And this is why it's important. A charity was going to leave them and their future wide open to the financial scrutiny that goes with charity regulation. It's easy to establish, you don't need original money, and a charity is obliged to publish detailed accounts, and it's subject to scrutiny by independent officials employed by the Charity Commission. All the donations that the Sussexes expected to receive, especially from America, would be itemized and published, as would be the salaries of their staff. As an officer of the charity, Meghan would be subject to fiduciary laws. The charity was incorporated on July 1st, 2019. There's nowhere for them to hide with this foundation, which was the original intention of it. They'd seen what William and Catherine were doing. William and Catherine have a foundation that is not registered as a charity. So what Harry and Meghan's colossal ignorance is exposed here, because they thought that, if we get a foundation, then we can hide too. We see that they aren't accountable and that they don't have to publish what they're up to. So, and with William and Catherine, you can trust that that's a fine arrangement. But the palace knew we cannot give Harry and Meghan something to hide behind here and be funneling in all this charity money, which they then overpay their staff, overpay their friends, overpay themselves, dipping into that charity money for their own financial gain. So they decided, okay, we're registering this as a charity, and this is going to come as a brutal blow. At their first meeting in Kensington Palace, the Sussex welcomed the foundation's 4 trustees. All of them were personally unknown to them. Stephen Martin Cooper was the chief executive of Horace Bank. Christy Jackson-Jones and Karen Blackett were British businesswomen, and they had significant commercial and legal experience. And the chairman, Stefan Alisek Taylor, was a well-known businessman and philanthropist. In a solemn atmosphere, they discussed their objectives for the foundation's success. By the end of the meeting, the Sussexes were shocked. The trustees, they discovered, were neither mates nor servants. They were independents, and they would have complete control of the charity's money. Under the law, the Sussexes would be denied any privacy over the foundation's management. For Meghan, a master of control, the legal requirement of transparency was unexpected. The foundation's legal structure, she believed, was a deliberate bid to undermine her. Yeah. It was a bid to undermine you because they could not trust you. Yes, of course, they came rip-roaring in with the solicitor who knew a few things. And he says, hey, we want to stop them in their tracks. Then we will give them nowhere to hide. Well, once Meghan realized that she couldn't hide behind the Sussex Foundation, what's she going to stick around in Britain for? I mean, if she can't hide and be a snake and, slither around and make her deals, she can't stay here. I mean, these people are clearly against her. I mean, they want to count her pennies and see where she's spending it. They want to make sure she's not pocketing the big bucks. I mean, what is the matter with these people? Why would they try to stop her in her tracks like this? It's astounding. Look at the way they're just using and abusing her. And to think these people wanted her to show her baby after she had the baby. I mean, you've never heard of this kind of abuse before. Well, Gina Nelthorpe-Cowan had realized way back in the day that Meghan was a businesswoman first and foremost, and that everything was calculated on commercial terms. Financing her charities and her personal lifestyle were destined to be intertwined. So to have to expose this to people, she wasn't here for that. I mean, she probably packed her bags that night and started looking for flights. Harry was similarly incensed. Charles had assured him of a major role in a slimmed-down monarchy for at least 10 years, but I mean, the clock's ticking and he can see that the time's almost up. He's watching how there's a discrepancy in the treatment between William and himself, and he wanted out. And of course, Meghan wasn't disappointed by this. Gina Nelthorpe-Cowan later reflected that she thought Meghan would be able to stick it out a little longer than she did, but of course not. These two are scrambling for the exit plan. Meghan would later admit that she and Harry began the conversation about leaving Britain with the Queen even before their marriage. She claims that it was 2 years they were talking about it, but Harry has a whole nother story. Harry says, no. That's not so. Well, I did mention it to my grandmother, but not until January 2018. But that was because of the lack of support, from both the media and my family. And of course we wanted to leave. We were being maligned, abused and mistreated at every turn of the way. So of course I brought it up. But I didn't talk about it 2 years before. He claims that I never blindsided my grandmother. So to suggest that I just suddenly left the country and she knew nothing of it, that's so wrong, but so typical. So typical that anyone would think that about me. They're always trying to malign me, always trying to twist my words, my deeds and my actions. Harry did also confirm that they had discussed leaving Britain in 2019, around the time of Meghan's suicidal talks, and he said that the family tried to prevent him. In his version about their departure, he said they talked about it all through 2019, and it was spurred by Meghan's suicidal feelings, and he had begged his family, how bad does it have to get until I'm allowed to do this? Until I'm allowed to flee this terrible prison, this concentration camp of an existence? The anger fueling their urgency to leave Britain was transmitted to Los Angeles. So Nick Collins was told to start looking for more acting roles for Meghan. Yeah, right. As if anybody would want to hire this woman. Andrew Mayer, her business agent, was told to start trying to negotiate a mammoth deal like the Obamas had with Netflix. And then at the same time, in parallel, she was encouraged by David Furnish, Elton John's partner, to cooperate on an animation series. So she's over here trying to get work back up. Remember how she was all like, I'm just going to be a royal. I think it's time for me to hang up my acting hat. It just looks like it's time for that chapter to be done, as fun as it was. And now that she sees that, oh, wait a second, if I become a royal, I don't just get to swim around in swimming pools of cash. People are watching what I do. Then suddenly she doesn't want to do it anymore. Okay. Now we come to one of the cringiest episodes I think that we've heard thus far. And you guys know that for me to say that, it has to be pretty extreme because the entire book, you're over there just getting secondhand embarrassment on every page. This is not a news story. I know you guys have heard this one before, but to read it again and to read the words actually on the page, I mean, literally, I just felt like wanting to crawl up into a ball and rocking back and forth just from the secondhand embarrassment alone. It's horrific. I don't do well with secondhand embarrassment. I can't watch shows like The Office. I mean, I do, but the entire time I'm tense. But this is just horrific. This is horrific on every single level. Meghan's veil fell on the 14th of July at the London premiere of Disney's The Lion King, which is Harry's favorite film. Remember how he used to put himself to sleep with Sounds of Africa? He must have loved all the scenes with the hyenas. That's his favorite. In the lineup that evening, she did not hide her desperation. Pharrell Williams, the rapper, told her that he was so happy about their marriage and added, "We cheer you guys on." Touching his arm, Meghan smiled. "Thank you. They don't make it easy." Okay, get over yourself enough already. Can you imagine? Everywhere that she goes, it's about her. She's constantly looking for an opportunity to be like, "Yeah, your dress is really pretty. I wanted to wear a dress like that too, except for they wouldn't let me. Oh, I like your dark fingernail polish. I wish I could wear stuff like that, but they won't let me." It's like everything has to be back to her and her whining and her complaining. And it's like, why couldn't she have just been like, "Thank you so much. We're enjoying our first year of marriage." You know, it's like she can't ever just let an opportunity go and just like be a cheerful, happy, hopeful, joyful person. It's always going to be like, "Oh, thank you for like noticing me, because no one ever notices me." And it's like, girl, that's all anybody does is notice you and your pain and your hardship and your heartache. It's all we've heard about for years and years now. Minutes later, Harry was speaking to the film's director. "If anyone needs any extra voiceover work," he began, only to be interrupted by Meghan. "That's really why we're here," she said. "It's the pitch." Harry praised Meghan's acting abilities. Next, Harry approached Robert Iger, Disney's chief executive, famous for the quip, "They only root for you in Hollywood when your cancer is terminal." And he says to Iger, "You know she does voiceovers." "I did not know that," replied the executive. "You seem surprised," said Harry. "She's really interested." "Sure, we'd love to try," said Iger, grasping that the prince was touting for work. "That's a great idea." I mean, this like really pitiful salesman's pitch. "You seem surprised," like, "Oh, I'm shocked you wouldn't know something so obvious. You don't want to be stupid for not knowing. Come on in, I'll help you out." I mean, this is so gross. This would be gross if he wasn't a prince. This is disgusting considering that he comes from the royal family. And he's over here just being like, "Could you throw some pennies on the floor so that we can crawl around? Just please, any crumbs off the table, anything you got. We'll take whatever scraps you got. You got some old lettuce over there. Chew on a soggy tomato. We're hungry. It's like, this is so embarrassing. Please stop. The Sussexes' successful pitch was only marred by their later realization that all their exchanges had been recorded. Meghan did narrate Disney's documentary Elephants Without Borders, the story of a group of elephants at risk from poachers, but the reviews were not enthusiastic. A spectacular of schmaltz, a sugary taste, and the right side of annoying were among the most favorable comments in the reviews. Shortly after the Lion King premiere, Meghan went to watch Serena Williams play at Wimbledon. Oh, you guys. We go from episode to episode. We're like a stone skipping over the sewers. I mean, we're just constantly pinging after various terrible stories. All right, here's another one. She goes to Wimbledon. Dozens of professional photographers and TV cameras recorded and broadcast her presence in the royal box. Then an altercation occurred. What could it be? Oh, Meghan's being a diva over here, except she's not a diva at all, you guys. Meghan ordered her bodyguard to tell a female spectator not to photograph her. She was at Wimbledon, she declared, in her private capacity. Well, is that why you're in the royal box? Because you're in your private capacity? Huh. I didn't know royals had a private capacity. That's news to me. But she was in her private capacity, this little caveat you didn't know about. The next day, Lorraine Kelly wrote in The Sun, "Either they're private citizens and pay for their own loft extension, or they are royals and have to share the big event in their lives with the rest of the world. They really can't have it both ways."